You know? How are you, Nisim? Okay, let's get started. He ain't no posek, but he is what he is. We need all kinds of Jews in this world. You know what I mean?
He's good. He's
He's a good guy.
okay, but
Okay.
Halachot would like to learn with you.
Yeah, he's not really so, he's not, he doesn't have a Masorah in that, you need a Masorah in Halacha, He didn't go to Israel, he didn't learn there, He didn't learn with Gedolim, he didn't, So, he's not on that level, but okay, anyway, so we're going to continue. Laws of Tzitzit. Are you there, Nisim? No answer. Okay, so my marker is on 11, Yud Aleph. Is that sounds familiar to you? Yeah. Is that right? Oh, I guess so. Got nothing to lose. בתוך רוחב הבגד. Two Yud Aleph, and also Bit Yosef. That's where my marker is. Maybe I'm off.
Yosef.
Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, what were you saying? Yeah, that's the Bit Yosef, right? And here's the tool right there.
What's up?
Second line.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's where it is. Okay, we'll start with that. Let's go with that, right? It says, "יראת צאן מלפניך אדוני רבותי, שלא ירדו בתקלה על ידי, ולא יכשל בדבר לך, וישמחו בך חבריי, שלא מתנה טהור ולא טהור טמא, ומותר אסור ולא אסור מותר, ולא יכשלו חבריי בדבר לך, וישמח בהם כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו, דעת ותונה גל לעיניי ואהבית נפלאות מתורתך." Okay, so it says, בתוך רוחב הבגד, when it comes to the width of the beged, אין לו שיעור, there's no שיעור, right? We talked about that, right? רק שלא יתנהו על החוטים שעושים בשפת הבגד. Only that you shouldn't put it on the strings which are on the edge of the beged. In other words, you don't want it to be like hanging, drooping off the edge of the beged, with those strings that are hanging off there. It's not really the way to do it, obviously. Okay, so then it goes on, כתב בעל העיטור, שאין שיעור לחוטים מלמעלה, אם ירצה יוסיף כמו שירצה. I think we did this already, no? I don't know, I'm not really sure, but... Yeah, it sounds familiar, right? Okay, 1 second. We'll just look at the Bit Yosef. Okay, I guess we'll do it. I'm not really sure I don't think we did it, but I don't know. Sounds familiar, but we did with some of it. Yeah, we did this already. I'm getting closer to it. 1 second. Okay, I'm not really sure. I think we didn't do it. I don't know. But anyway, I guess we'll just start from the beginning, wherever it is.
Mhm.
We'll continue from there. Not really sure yet what's going on here. Okay, so anyway, we were doing, let's go to Bet Yosef, right? It says, "בתוך רוחב הבגד אין לו שיעור, רק שלא יתנהו על החוטים." So when it comes to the width of the beged, there's no shiur, there's no size. Only that you should put it, שלא יתנהו על החוטים. Don't put on the strings שעושים בשפת הבגד, as we said, that you make on the edge of the beged. דין זה לא מצאתי במבואר בשום מקום. So he says, I didn't see this explained anywhere in this din that he writes over here. In other words, what's the source of it? אלא שבאורחות חיים, only אורחות חיים says, הלכות ציצית, מצאתי כלשון זה, so I found like this, he says, צריך לתלות הציצית באורך הטלית, you have to hang the ציצית on the length of the טלית, ולא ברוחבו, but not on the width. עד כאן יש רבנו, נראה לי שטעמו של רבנו לפי שהוא סובר. So it says, it seems like the reason of Rabbeinu is because he holds the Haditanya, that which it says in the Braita, בפרק התחילת, in פרק תחילת, מ"ב עמוד א', הטיל על הקרן או על הגדיל, that if you put it on the corner or the gedil, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov posel. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says it's pasul. Keren kere lesof orech habeged b'tane, because the keren is the end of the length of the beged. B'tane de'im hitila tzitzit basof habeged, and then it says, right, if he put the tzitzit on the end of the beged, lemata memelo kesher budal, less than a thumb, as we said, right? Pisula, it's pasul. The bainan ala kanaf veleka, because we need on the top of the kanaf of the corner, and it's not there. Veleka v'hadar tane, and then it comes and teaches she'im itila tzitzit ala gedil. That if you put the tzitzit on the gedil, shehu hasafa. What does that mean? The gedil, the edge of the beged, shebesof rochav beged, which is on the end of the width of the beged. L'shnetzadav, to two sides, right? It says ori lish. That's what it's called. Belaz upasula, right? Mipnei she'eno meikara beged. Why? Because that's not really part of the beged, this gedil. It's more like some kind of an external unit there that hangs off, whatever, something like that, right? Meikara beged. Vezeu lashon sheni shel perush Rashi. This is the second language of the perush of Rashi. Umashma leRabbeinu de lo mifsal bekarov lespat beged. So Rabbeinu learns this like this, that it's not really pasul at the end of the beged, berochvo, in the width, ela b'matil tzitzit begedil. Only if you put it in the gedil, which is like the edge, like really, the outside of the beged. It's outside. Beged atzmo, aval b'matil beged atzmo. But if you put it on the beged itself, inside, afa pi shelo yirchiku misfat harochav beged, even though it didn't distance it from the edge of the width of the beged, klal kasher. So in other words, it could be right on the edge, according to this, as long as it's not like outside. Okay, some kind of a rim it has there, some kind of a thing there. כתב רבנו הגדול מארי אבוהב. So says מארי אבוהב, שמה שכתב רבנו בתוך של רוחב בגד, that what Shatur said, that has to be in the width of the beged, the width of the beged, eno shiur, there's no size. In other words, you can put it anywhere you want, basically, like we said, right? Hainu lomar, it means to say the eno shiur lemata. That means there's no shiur lemata below. כלומר, שיכול להטילו סמוך לשפת הבגד. That means you could put it like right next to the edge of the beged, as we said. אבל למעלה בהכרח הוא שיש לו שיעור. When it comes to above, right? In other words, here when it says below and above, it doesn't mean height-wise. It means big and small, right? So like small and big. That's what it means. So here it's talking about how big can it be, right? That does. In other words, when it comes to minimum, there's no minimum. You could put it right on the edge. You know, you talked about this. You asked about this, right? Remember? You were right. Whatever. So there. But when it comes to maximum, there is a shiur. He says, right? What's a shiur? Not more than 3 fingers, right? From the width. Good. Okay, so then he goes on. The samag katav says the samag. Hamatil tzitzit bebeged lo yanechenu lemala mishlosh esbaot. Don't put it above 3. It says, right, as we said. V'gam lo yanechenu mamash b'sfat habeged. Also, don't put it in the edge of the beged. Shegodlim kedei. Over there, that's like the edge of the beged, the outside. Kedei sheyir chazak shekorin belaz laishida. Right. So you know what this is? It's like an edge, which is like reinforced, so it shouldn't rip. The edge of the beged. So don't put it over there, he says, because that's not really a part of it. It's like more the outside, right? It's the outside of the beged. Why? So it says on kanfei, right on the corner. Right, that's too far out. It's not really part of the beged, he says. That's what we said in Perek Tchelet. If you put it on the corner, or on the gedil, which is, as we said, that rim on the outside. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov posel. Rabbi Eliezer posels it. Ad kan nireh midvarav. That's how it seems from his words. Sheu mefaresh kedishna kama de Rashi. That's how he explains the first language of Rashi. De al gedil kedekatane ka'en ami aorech habeged. That which it says, right? When it says on the gedil, right, that's not allowed to put it there. It's talking also about the length as well. In other words, either way, you can't do it. Whether it's the width or the length, you can't put it on the edge. That means that if there's also an edge on the edge of the beged, right, on the end of the beged, there's some kind of rim there to make it strong. And he put tzitzit there. It was a little bit wide, so there's room to put tzitzit there. Even though it has a distance of the thumb, because it's very wide, this rim. It's a wide rim. But nevertheless, no good. Right? Pasul. Why? Because it's gedil. It's the outside of the beged. Okay? It's not really part of the beged. So it seems like, something that really today we don't have this kind of thing today, this kind of edge, this kind of rim, right? Whatever it is, right? Because really today everything is a part of the beged. Like we don't have something which is not a part of the beged. Right. So it has something like that, protective thing on the outside. That's what we're talking about,
Another layer?
Not a layer, like a edge, like a rim. Like it's protected from ripping.
So they're saying another finger above the rim? That's the minimum?
So it can't be on the gedil, right? Which is that rim, it cannot be on that. Because it's not a part of the beged. That's what he's saying.
But then you have to measure half of that, like
right.
From that.
Right, but that's from the bottom, but from the side, maybe not, right? As we said, maybe you don't need that. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so but you said you learn from here that when it comes to the width, there's no length, there's no size. Since it says, right, that he put on the gedil, and together with putting on the keren, you see from there that they are like the same. In other words, they have the same treatment. They have the same halacha. And just like he put on the gedil, mifsil, it's pasul, gam berochav, also on the width as well. Why? Because since the reason that would puzzle it, where it's on the gedil, is because it's not a part of the beged. Mali orech, mali rochav. What does it matter? What length or width? Right? It's the same concept. It's not a part of the beged. So it's the same thing. If you put it on the corner, whether it's the width or the length, pasul. So according to this, right, the length and the width have the same halacha exactly, according to this opinion. It's all the same. Makes sense, by the way. I think Maran also passed like that in Shulchan Aruch. We saw that. Yeah. We did see that. Okay, so you brought several opinions there. פסול. לכל שאינו מרוחק מן הקשר, לא קשור גודל. As long as it's not, like thinks about, doesn't have the thumb, as we said, ben berochav, whether it's the length or the width, right? Ken mikre, it's called the corner, which is not good, right? It has to be on the corner. But look kanaf, and that's not kanaf. The chenir midivya bal nimuke Yosef. That's what it seems to be nimuke Yosef. Katav ilchata achutin betoch shalosh etzbaot min kanaf. So he says the halacha is like this: that when it comes to the strings being within 3 fingers, right? Mina kanaf, from the kanaf, ben mina tzad ben mina tzad. It doesn't matter whether it's the side or the bottom. Same halacha. Okay. וכתב רבנו הגדול, מרי אבוהב, says מרי אבוהב, שכך סברת בעל העיטור. That's how העיטור says, שגם רוחב הבגד, also the width, says צריך להרחיק כמו לא קשור גודל. You also need that thumb. Same thing. כתב רב ז"ל, שכן ראוי לעשות. It says the Rav, right, that's the proper way to do. כן כתב רבנו יונה, right, so I guess the Rav means the tour. Usually calls him Rabbeinu. Here called him the Rav. Okay, probably the same guy. וכן כתב רבנו יונה בהיגד תשובה. That's what it says, רבנו יונה. בזה לשונו. This is what it says there. צריך שירחיק מקום להנחת החוטין. Maybe you know what the Rav is? Mari Avuhav. He just brought this whole thing, right? Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's not the Torah. It makes sense. Okay, whatever. Anyway. וכן כתב רבנו יונה בהיגד התשובה. That's what it says also רבנו יונה. בזה לשונו. That's what it says there. צריך שירחיק מקום הנחת החוטין משפתי הטלית, מזה ומזה, קשר גודל, ויזהר שיהיה בתוך 3 אצבעות. He also says, right, from both directions you need the thumb. This way and that way. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, then he brings בדק הבית, right? וזה לשון ספר הבתים, בלשון הרם. Right? This is what it says over there. שמענו שאין צריך להרחיק אלא לאורך הבגד. He says, there's an opinion like this, we heard, that you only have to worry about that when it comes to the length. לא לרוחבו, but not to the width, right? ויש מי שכתב, but there is one who says שצריך להרחיק ברוחב. You also have to do with the same thing, right? בגד, ובאורכו, and also the same thing with the length and width. לכן המנהג עד כאן, so the minhag is like that. There you go, right? So you can't beat that. Okay, so let's go on. ונראה שאף אגב שרבנו מפרש. And even though Rabbeinu explains that Rabbeinu is a tour, right? As you said, right? The Rav is somebody else, right? The Mario Rav probably. Okay. So the Rav. Okay, ונראה שאף על פי שרבנו מפרש תיל על הגדיל פסולה, and even though the Torah said if you put on the גדיל it's פסול, מה יראה ברוחב הבגד, it's talking about the רוחב, the width, לאו נאמר בדווקא מטיל בגד רוחב בגד הוא דמיסד. It doesn't mean it's only the width, אלא מטיל בגדיל שווה רוחב בגד. Same thing with the length, right? If you put it on the edge, right, where the rim is, that rim, no good. Not a part of the beged. Kasher. I'm sorry, what? What's it? No, one more time. לאו לממד דווקא במטיל בגד, שרוחב בגד הוא דפיסת, אלא, אבל מטיל בגד, right? That's not, right, exactly, I said it right. It doesn't mean that it's kosher when it comes to the length. No, it's not. The chevan, the ta'ama mipnei she'eno nechshav min habeged. Since the reason is because it's not a part of the beged, what's the difference between the length and the width? It's all the same. So therefore he's trying to say, right, that bottom line, we treat it the same way. Even according to the Torah. And the one who says that it's only talking about the width, that's like more, he says that's more frequent, right? That you have a situation like that, where there's a rim there, like that, on the side. So if you're going to come to cut from the talit 3, right, from either whichever direction you want, you're going to find the gedil from 2 sides of the width. When it comes to the length, though, you're not going to find gedil. Even from one side. Wow. In other words, it's not matsui. They don't put it there. It's gedil, right? When it comes to the length, they don't usually have it there. Not frequent. Ella in those days, right? That's the way it was. Ella in can, unless unless you cut the talit from the end of the beged or misofor, or at the end of it, right, or the beginning of the end. When you read the melok kosher gudal shetzarich, so it says it seems like what that thumb that we talked about. You need that That's besides the gedil. In other words, first of all, the gedil, right? That whole thing is pasul, and then another thumb you need also. That's what it is. That's what he's saying, right? Because that whole gedil is pasul, no matter what. It has no chance. Because it's not part of the beged. בנימוק יוסף, but it says בנימוק יוסף, כתוב, שאף הגדיל עולה עם הבגד. So he says that even the gedil is a part of the beged. Okay, so he has a different opinion. The shur malek kosher gudal. So he's saying, right, that when it comes to the thumb, the gedil is also part of that measure, as opposed to the other opinion, which he said it was not. So this is more lenient, right? This opinion. So it says, seems to be that the reason is because since he put on the keren veitil ala gedil, and he also put on the gedil, mitnu behade hadade, they're taught together. Shavimhem, they're equal. Just like the keren is the end of the weaving. Even though if he put it pasul, when he distances from the beginning of the beged, the thumb, the shoe of the thumb, kasher. Same thing with the gedil. And even if he put if you put it pasul, if he distances it that much, kasher, but that's going to be good. That's good. So it says, but you know what? If the gedil is not anyway so wide, it's not such a big gedil. It's good to be machmir, you know, and like besides the gedil, to do another thumb, right? To be on the safe side, just in case the gedil doesn't count, right?
And are you going to be still less than 3 fingers in case the...
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I think, yeah, for sure, yeah, there's no question about that, because we're talking about, as we said, the gedil is only the thumb, right? Is the gudal is only 2.5, and the 3 fingers is 6, so you got some slack there.
To cover both opinions, if anything.
Yeah, it's better to do it that way. Exactly. Okay. So anyway, right? Exactly what you said. He says, right? That's going to be still within 3 fingers if you do that. That's something, right? So he says, now you're going either way, right? You're good, right? From either direction. Right? Kasher, it's kosher. If the gedil is part of the beged, which should be measured, you don't have 3 fingers, so you're good, as you said, right? But if the din is that it's not a part of that measure, it's part considered to be part of the only the part of the beged itself. At least you have a thumb, right? So this way you're kosher from both sides. Interesting. So after I wrote this, he says, I found this din in Bava Kama, Kuf Yud Tet Amud Aleph. The Tanan, it says over there in Mishnah, Hatam, Hakoves Notel Shlosha Chutin. So he says, right, that the one who's laundering, he takes 3 strings, Vehem Shelo, that belongs to him. He can take 3 strings. Yatem can, right? But more than that, the balabait belongs to the balabait, belongs to the owner. If it was black on white, he take everything. The hand belongs to him. So what are we talking about here, right? Today we don't have this concept, something like foreign to us. Whatever. But Rashi says, Derech oreg bigdei tzemer, that it's the way the ones who weave, right, wool clothing. La'arog shlosha chutin mimin acher. You know what they do? They put 3 strings from a different fabric. The sofa beged at the end of the beged. So that's what they do. This was like standard practice in those days, Go figure, right? The koves notlan, and then the launderer takes it, right? So what he does is when he takes it out, he makes the beged nice and smooth, whatever. right? ואם היה החוט שחור, so it says if the string was black, שהרג בבגד לבן, and he put it into a black, white בגד, רשאי ליטול הכל, he can take everything. Why? לפי שהשחור מגנה את הלבן, because it makes it look ugly, right? Black on white. אמר רב יהודה, it says in the Gemara, it says רב יהודה, הכל עולים למניין תכלת. So it says everything counts in תכלת, ויצחק ברי כפיד עליו. This is my son Yitzchak is מקפיד on them.
But the Rabbi likes more black on the white. I mean, how can you judge and say, well, it looks ugly? For him, it looks ugly. For the owner.
Well, the thing is that Gemara says, right, that it's considered to be ugly by people, so you understand? It's like a common consensus issue, right? Consensus, everybody looks at it as ugly. You have to see what it was in those days, I mean? It's really hard to tell, if you don't, I mean, you can imagine, like, let's say you have a white outfit, right? And you've got like some black strings on it. It's gonna make it, look weird. Or the other way around, right? Whatever. So, Rashi explains, Hakol olim leminyan tchelet. So everything counts for tchelet. Otam shelosha chutim. Those 3 strings. Im lo katzaran kobes. If the launderer didn't shorten them, olim leminyan, they do count for the minyan. Melo kesher gudal for when it comes to the thumb rule. Right, the rule of thumb. שצריך להרחיק את התכלת של ציצית. So what does that mean? You have the distance, the תכלת של ציצית, משפת הבגד, from the edge of the בגד. כתב, רשב"א, says רשב"א, הכובס נוטל 3 חוטים. He says, right, what does it mean that the launderer takes 3 strings? שדרך ההורגים שהורגים בסוף הבגד. Same thing, right? He says that it was the way that with the weavers, they put in the end of the beged, 2 or 3 חוטים. They put like 2 or 3 strings, רחוק מן ההריגה, away from the weaving, right? ועושים זה כדי להציל הבגד שלא תסתר הריגתו. So you know why they put this? It's like a rim, again, right? To save the beged from becoming, dismembered, right? Like, coming apart. בראש הבגד, they put it in the end of the beged, על ידי הכביסה. See, you know what it is? Today they have better techniques to do this, they don't need this kind of stuff. In the old days, this was the way they did it, in order to make it strong and lasting. Today they have all kinds of tricks, that they do. They don't need none of this stuff, that's what it is. So we live in a different world, basically. What can you do? We have technology, a little bit more than they had, apparently, ואותם החוטים נשמטים משם בשעת כביסה. So it says those strings that come out at the time of the laundering, הכובס נוטלן, the launderer takes it, והכל עולים למניין תכלת, they all do count for תכלת, פירוש שצריך להרחיק מן הכנף, כמלוא קשר גודל. That means that when it comes to the measure, you have to distance the תכלת from there, the tzitzit, right? It all counts, everything counts. ואותו אריג שבאותו הבגד עולה לשיעור קשר. גדול. So you see from this Gemara, right, brings, right, that you see from there that the rim does count. You found the Gemara. Can you imagine? Right, there you go, right? Okay. ולהרחקת 3 אצבעות, ויצחק בני של רב יהודה היה מסופק בדבר. Look what it says, right? So Gemara says that Yitzchak, his son, the son of the rabbi, had a doubt about this, if the rim counts or not. So you see, right, that this doubt has been around for a long time already, since the Gemara. The דבר שהיה מקפיד בו, right, so he was מקפיד, מן הספק היה נוטלו מן הבגד, so what would he do? Because of the doubt, he would just take it off, this way, no questions. Just it shouldn't be there. But the Shema Olim, because maybe it counts, the Shema Olim, maybe it doesn't count. That one wasn't sure. So take it out, that's the best thing, don't get into trouble. As we said, right, the whole thing is like this, that Tzitzit is the Doraita, so you don't want to play around with this stuff. What I mean? This is not the Rabbanan. When you have this doubt, you have to go towards the Machmir side. You're not really sure. It's 50-50, Flip the coin and see how it comes up. I don't know. What I mean? So, Sapek Doraita Lechamim. This is the rule, right?
Why did he do that?
Not like LED. LED is not the right. That's why we're needing it. Okay, I'm sorry. What are you saying? Yeah.
But why not the other approach? Just take another thumb up from the.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah. I guess it's. By the way, it's not always possible to do that trick. Right. You know why? Because as we said, right, it depends on the thickness of the rim. If the rim is very thick, it's not going to turn out that way.
It'll be too fine.
It's going to be more than 3. Yeah. So that only works, as he said, right? The Beit Yosef, it only works when the rim is relatively thin. You know what I mean? שיהיה מקפיד ומונע ספק היד נוטלו מן הבגד, לשם העולים לשם אין עולים. מכל מקום, כיוון דרב יהודה אמר, but it says, nevertheless, since Rabbi Yehuda said over there in the Gemara, Ledia, Olim, that they do count, you know? So his son had a doubt, okay, but Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda, you know what I mean? He's a big man, you know? So Afagav, the Rabbi Yitzchak Bered, Makpid Kayama, but even though his son is Makpid. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda is the father, you know, he's the big honcho. You know what I mean? His son Yitzchak was Makpid, but you know, who's the halacha? You know, father or son, right? We go like the father. You know what I mean? He's the Rebbe, he's the Talmid. You know what I mean? So that's the way it is, right? Pashut. People ask me, you know, about this, you know, the other day. What are we passing like? You know, Chazon Avadia or Yakut Yosef? Of course, Chazon Avadia. That's you know, it's the rabbi who wrote that. You know what I mean? Yakut Yosef is, you know, his son. You know what I mean? So if there's a machloket between them, Stira, we go like the Chazon Avadia, of course. That's what's the question. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. Like for instance, you know, I'll give you an example, right? In the old Yakut Yosefs somewhere, my chavruta showed me Asher. You know, my chavruta Asher showed me that it says over there the grandma is asur. You know, and you know, laws of Shabbat. You know what I mean? And I told him, I said, this is a mistake. You know, because you know, the rabbi taught us many times. You know, when we were by him, allowed man, that the grandma is mutar. You know, so I told him, I said, I'm sorry, but this is a mistake. You have to realize that. So he, you know, stood by his, you know, gun, you know, and he tried to, you know, bring me sources here and there, all kinds of things. So in the end, I showed him in the Chazon Avadia, you know, it says over there Meforash, the grandma's mutar, you know. It's also it's Gemara in the Masechet Shabbat. I mean, whatever. It's all this whole discussion, but anyway, the point is, you know, that that's what Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef said. If there's a stira between, you know, Yakut Yosef and Chazon Avadia, do like the Chazon Avadia. Even himself, he said that. You know, what I mean? So that's the way it is, obviously. You know.
But what,
Yeah.
what the source from Yakut Yosef for the Gamma?
It's fake news.
Maybe it's a different period.
Yeah, he just didn't do you know, do his homework. You know, you know, I what do you call it? I told my friend also, one of my friends here from the community. He was talking to me about this, you know, asking me questions about these things, you know, these issues. You know, so I told him, I said, you know, when we were in Chavadad learning over there, the call of the rabbi, what happened was there was one guy, French guy there, you know, who was learning there with me. And he was a nice guy, you know, like clever guy. So he liked Yakut Yosef, you know, he was a big fan. Like we all are, you know, we're all big fans of Yakut Yosef. You know? So what happened was that we grew up on that, you know, like since we were kids, you know, we were reading that stuff. You know, we grew up on Yakut Yosef. So he was a big fan, you know, but this guy was not only a fan, he became a critic in the end. You know what I mean? So what happened? He started to look through, you know, and check the sources, you know, and he found hundreds of mistakes over there in sources, you know, wrong sources. You know what I mean? Yakut Yosef, hundreds, not tens, not dozens, hundreds. So what happened was, right, he gathered it all up, you know, like within a period of several years. And then he, you know, he called Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, you know, he told him, he says, I want to meet with you, you know, I got some news for you. Some bad news. You know, wow. So he met with him, you know, and he showed him. He says, see, all these sources are wrong. I mean, so look, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, you know, he's a straight guy, you know. So he told him, he says, fine, you know, I'm gonna change everything. Next version that I put out, I'm gonna correct all the mistakes. You know, that's what he did. So you know what he does? Like every time he puts out, like every 5 years, a new version. You know, it keeps changing. You know what I mean? This whole time. Yeah, that's you need a new set every like 5 years. Otherwise, it costs you a lot of money. You know. You have to
Rabbi, he doesn't consult with his father to check his work.
Here's the thing, right? Okay, so the truth is, you know, that he claims, and I believe him, by the way, he claims, you know, that everything that he did in Yakut Yosef, the halachot, I'm not talking about the sources, you know what I mean? That, I'm sure his father had no time for that. I mean, that's like you know, that's too much, you know. He told him, he says he would give him a half hour a day, you know. With half hour a day, you can't go into sources too much, you know what I mean? Half hour a day is half hour, you know. We do an hour and we barely get anything done. You know what I mean? So can you imagine what is a half hour, right? So he said, you know, they went through every halakha and the rabbi affirmed every one of them, you know. So then how can it be later on the Chazon Avadia argues with these things, you know? Because after, you know, looking at it, you know, more iyun, you know, more deeper, you know, the rabbi changed his mind about a lot of these things. In other words, you know, at first glance, you know, it seemed okay to him, you know what I mean? But after the researching it, it seemed that it wasn't okay. It happens, by the way, all the time, you know? That's what happens, you know? In other words, You know what it is? People think, by the way, when you give haskama to a sefer, you give like a probation to a book. That means that like everything, every little word was checked out by the rabbi. It's not true. That's not what it means. What it means is generally he looked at it. You know what I mean? He overlooked it. He didn't find anything. But if he does find anything, he would write it. Something bad there,
The rabbi,
a mistake. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So that's why you got to take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? What you see in these books. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mistakes especially in the older ones. There's a lot of mistakes there, and then they've been corrected. They've been whatever. But again, right? The same thing. With the English one. You know what I mean? The English one was not written by Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. It was written by somebody else. You know what I mean? So you have to realize that whatever you see in there, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef has no responsibility for that content there because it wasn't written by him. He doesn't even know what's there. Nobody has ever showed him what's there because he doesn't read a word of English. You know what I mean? So try your luck, and see how it goes. That's the way it is, right?
Okay.
So you got to be careful with that a little bit. But in the end, I told him, he asked me, okay, so bottom line, like, what's the best Kitzur book you can buy? Kitzur, just to know what's the halakha, bottom line, quick reference book, just open it up, boom. I said, still the best Kitzur is Yalkut Yosef. In the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's the best Kitzur for Sfaradim, for sure, Maybe for Ashkenazim, it's possible. Okay, it's not you on that one, but the point it's still the best one around because after all those corrections that have been done, all that, it's pretty much like bulletproof, like 99%, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right? It's pretty good, I mean, compared to the other ones. It's still the number one, and you know what it is also, he's just a bigger chacham than those other Kitzur books, like they're not on his level. You know what I mean? So you can't expect him to put out a work, which is more correct than his. It's not going to happen because he's a master, I mean, relatively speaking, in this generation, he's the best, whatever, one of the best. So I mean, it's
I get confused
yeah.
that Hazon Avad writes about the grammar and he says it's allowed.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Yalkut, he made a mistake over there. There was a lot of mistakes there.
But that was approved by his father. That's one of the halakha.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Just one of those things. Just it wasn't correct. What can I tell you?
Just looks.
There's always a rule. There's always exceptions to the rule. I mean, God knows what happened. I don't know. I don't know how that slipped through. I have no idea. But it was just the opposite. It could be also, by the way, that the rabbi changed his mind a little bit when it comes to that.
And
when it comes to grammar. But the truth is, that it's a pretty simple, open and shut case grammar. If you really look into it carefully,
right.
Open and shut case.
But since Hazon Avad is the older publication, right?
No, it's newer. That's the whole thing. The Chazon Ovadia was the last thing the rabbi wrote before he died.
Oh,
I mean,
newer.
he was doing Shabbat Chazon Ovadia when he died. So that's the Mishnah Chorona, it's the last Mishnah. You know what I mean? There's nothing newer than that.
So it's,
you know what I mean?
It's newer than Yalkut Yosef.
It's even newer than the newest Yalkut Yosef, perhaps. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know when the new one came out next to the last new one. There was coming out all the time, by the way. Yalkut Yosef. They're all the time. They're being refreshed. So it's a constant process. By the way, not so with the works of the rabbi. The books of the rabbi, they were never refreshed. They were never corrected because there was nothing to correct there. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of a level of of work. Yalkut Yosef is like a project. It started like 50 years ago. It's been being corrected and revised all the time. Every 5 years or so. The rabbi's books never revised, never corrected, never touched. Nothing was ever touched over there.
Right, was there anything new there? Why would the son write if his father wrote this masterpiece already? Like, what's there to add?
Still, people need like Kitzur book. Some people just need a simple book. Because Chazon Ovadia is not so simple. I mean, you have to read the bottom. You got to get into the bottoms there. The bottoms can be a little bit confusing, especially for simple people. We're not experienced. So they don't know which way to go. Like it's confusing a little bit. Like he says things here, he says things over there, and think, they say, wow, what? Did he really mean that? Like what? Sometimes a person can, misinterpret things.
It's not black and white. Yeah.
Not for the average reader. Let's put it this way. You need a Talmid Chacham to learn that book. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So okay, what can I tell you? Right? That's the way it is. Okay, so getting back to our issue, right? As we said, so why do we get into this whole issue? Because we said, right, when it was a machloket between the son and the father, we pass like the father. Usually that's the way it is. Unless the father was an Amaretz, we're not talking about that, right? This guy was not Amaretz, he was Vichacham. So Rav Yehuda, he was Vichacham, so we pass like him, right? Very pashut. Okay, very good. So עולים בשם אין עולים. בכל מקום, כיוון דרב יהודה אמר ליד העולים, אף אגב דרב יצחק ברק מקפיד הקיים עלן, כרב יהודה ועולים רק כנשונו. So therefore he says, bottom line, we go like Rav Yehuda, right? Not like Rav Yitzchak's son. Right? That's the bottom line. Okay, very good. So we're going to do the Shulchan Aruch, right? Danielov. Yeah, okay, very good. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Hanukkah learning. Nothing like Hanukkah learning. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. You know, you have the Yetzirah, you know? It tells you, it's Hanukkah, don't go out now, you know, stay home with your family, you know, so, you know, spin the dreidel a little bit, you know.
Some more donuts.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole thing, right? You know how it is, Yetzirah. That's what happens, you know? What can you do? Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
Nissim, you there? Nissim.
His name is there.
Of course, I'm here. This is my
There you
holiday.
go. Oh, we heard you finally.
Hag Sameach, everybody.
We called you before. We called you.
I know. I was here, but
What's doing this thing?
I'm okay, Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Rabbi. It's good to hear. Good to hear you. Good to see you. Amen. Amen. Toda. Hag Sameach.
All right. Very good. Chag Sameach. All right. So let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what's going on there. Yud Aleph. Yud Aleph. Yud Aleph. Okay, so it says like this, right? Im Hagadil, you got that, Yitzchak? Okay, it says Im Hagadil shekorin Oriliaza. So that's like a rim, you know, on the beged, which keeps it from coming apart, basically, right? Hurachav. So it's as if it's wide, the rim. Lo yatil bo tzitzit. Don't put tzitzit over there, right? Because it's not kosher, right? At least there's a safek about that, right? If you put pasu, this is pasu. As we said, right? It's the right. We have to go to chumrah. You know? It's a safek, whatever. The al-kanfei bigdehem ketiv. Why? Because there's an-kanfei bigdehem on the corner. V'zeno nechshav gebeged. It's not a part of the beged. Aval olehu neshiur malek kosher gudal. But it says it does count for the length of the thumb. Oh. That's how he paskins. Okay, let's see if there's any other opinions here. Right? Ular hakat. Also for 3 fingers. Ooh.
So you can put it right out.
That's how he paskins. Right? Look at that. Right? So the rim does count. In other words, don't put it on the rim because it's not because it's not a part of the beged. Because it's not kanaf, it's kenan. You know, that's the issue. We said, right, there's 2 parts of the beged at the end. Kanaf is like the wing, you know, whatever you want to call it, and the keren is like the edge. You know, so keren is no good for tzitzit. It has to be kanaf, it has to be a little bit inside. Right, as we said, you gotta have that thumb rule, right? Rule of thumb, right? Rule of thumb. So that's what you need. Otherwise, it's no good. But on the other hand, he's saying, right, you can count it when it comes to your measurements, you know. So therefore, he paskins that is a part of the beged actually, even though there's many Rishonim we saw that they hold that it's not. Very interesting.
What was his source?
Well, there was 2 opinions over there. You know, that's what it was. You know, there was 2 different opinions there. Right. So he went with the Rishonim that said that it's a part of the beged, which is very interesting, by the way. Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Where's my head? Right, exactly. From the Gemara he brought it. That's the whole thing, right? Balbata. He paskin from there, you know, because Rabbi Yehuda said so. There you go, right? So it's not even Rishonim, it's Emoraim, right? Emoraim. So what does that mean? The Rishonim that paskin not like that seems like they overlooked this Gemara. They didn't catch it. You know, it's possible. You never know what's going to be, right? Right. But anyway, right, the rule is like this, you know, that if you see a Rishon that writes something, you know, and it's against the Gemara, you know, you can't paskin like that. You know what I mean? As long as you're a Chacham, you know how to learn properly, you know, and you know, he knew how to do that, right? So that's the whole thing. You know, otherwise, yeah, we'd have a problem with that. But, you know, like you see that it's against the Gemara, you know, flat out. No way, no other way of looking at it. So how can you pass it like that, right? You can't. You can't pass it like that. You have to be a big man to make these decisions. You know what I mean? You can't be a little fry. You know what I mean? You got to be a big boy. Okay. Otherwise, right? Don't get into this stuff because you know the thing is, right, you have to know all the Gemara. You know the whole Gemara. You have to know which is the halacha. Maybe there's two different opinions. One over there, one over here. You know, you didn't see that one. You saw this one.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be a master. You know, you got to be a master. Okay, whatever, right? Otherwise, you know, just go like the Rishonim, you know, don't play games. You know what I mean? Don't think, you know, you can outsmart the Rishonim. But the man, you know, seems to have caught something over here. You know what I mean? Caught something there. So this Gemara is saying, right, that it is a part of the Beged. That's how he paskins. There you go. Okay, so that's how he paskins. And then says the Rama, right, Tov Shem Dod Shiur Kesher Gudal, so he says, right, good to be machmir, right? As we saw some of the Rishonim, right? Rashba, Rashi, you know, that you shouldn't count the chumrah both ways, right? To count it and not to count it. So, right, put it in the middle this way, right? You're fulfilling both sides. So Ramah says, good to be machmir, you know, if possible, you know. So, you know, somebody's like producing tzitzit, you know, talit. You should try to, you know, like, you know, do it the best way.
Right.
You know, this way, right? There's no machloket, there's no issues, there's no, according to everybody. After all, you know, I mean, even in the Talmud itself, right, the son was machmir, you know, Rabbi Yitzchak, you know. So there's something to that, you know, even though the halacha is not like him. But, you know, he's not nobody, you know, he's somebody.
Right.
You know, otherwise they wouldn't put his opinion there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If he was a nobody. You know, he was a smart guy. Okay, so that's the way it is. Okay, very good. So that's Yud Aleph. Okay, let's see if we can catch something else here. So there's Yud Bet. It's interesting. There's Yud Bet right after Yud Aleph in Bet Yosef. I just want to see if there's Yud Bet Aleph also. Somebody must have missed it. Oh, well, maybe we already read it. We probably read it already. I'm not sure. It's a big siman. It's a huge siman.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Far away from me.
It's not as far as you think. Not as far as you think. But it's not so close either. You're right. I mean, it's not that close. We still have a lot more to cover here. So anyway, right, let's read you the bet, whatever. Yeah, let's see what we have here. It's really in the Bet Yosef, you know, you bet.
Mm-hmm.
It's right after what we just read in Bet Yosef.
Mm-hmm.
You see what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Katav Balai 2. It says Balai 2. She'en shiur lechutin milamala. When it comes, as we said, right, that when it comes to the length of the strings, they can be as long as you want, right? As long as the Atlantic Ocean. And we don't care about that. Maybe you'll say Yosef Kemoshi would say, right? You can add as much as he wants, you know, to the length. Depending on how tall he is, right? Whatever, I don't know. Right? It seems like his reason coming from this Gemara, Membet Amud Aleph, in Menachot, as we said. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Rame Arba'a. So the Ayef Lehu. So says this Gemara, this rabbi, he contrasted 4 things, right? And then he threw them out, whatever, something like that. We'll see what that means. Me'ayef. Maybe Amidifti Rame Tamania the Inon Shitasar. Oh, I see. Oh, he's talking about the strings of the tzitzit here, right? So what does that mean? The first opinion says there's 4 strings, right? And the second opinion says it's 8. So in other words, but then he says Komar the Inon Shitasar. In other words, you got to take 8 and fold it into 16.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, right? This opinion, second opinion. once you put them in talit, koflim otam, you fold them, koflim, והם 16, going to be 16. משמע לתעד דתמה משום דלת בתוספת החוטים בבעל תוסיף. So he holds that when you add more strings, you don't transgress בעל תוסיף, right? Adding more to the mitzvah. You don't transgress that for some reason or other. There are places that it's okay to add. There are certain things you're allowed to add.
The same one.
Right, exactly. You got it on the spot, right? Right on the spot. Certain things you can add, certain things you can add on it. Right? So you're allowed to add these things according to him. Even though we darshan gedil shenayim gedilim arba, that when it says gedilim, it means 4. That means minimum is 4. But he can add as much as he wants. Therefore, he said 8, which is 16. As we said right here, aravot, right? Sukkah, right? Exactly. We just talked about that, right? The aravot you can add darshinan aravesh time and nohagin leshum arbe besum arbe b'lulav. But we put arbe, a lot of aravot in lulav, right? The minhag is to put a lot, right? V'chein katal Mordechai, it says in Mordechai also like this. B'tchilat Hilchot Tzitzit, Minyan Tzitzit, B'shem Tosfot Shams, the name of this rabbi. Mishum hachi hava rame Rabbi Yirmiyah Temania. So therefore, Rabbi Yirmiyah used to put 8. Even though 4 is enough, he'd like to put more. He was one of those guys. Liberal. Generous. Afilu tuvanami, even a lot. Yachol leosiv, not a lot. Shechevan shenitan reshut leosiv, since you were given permission to add al arba chotin to 4. Shema Torah, the Torah said temania kemea or mea temania. So you can put 100. It doesn't make any difference. So he says, then Maran says, I saw actually the book of the Itur. I got a hold of it, right? So I found that he writes regarding this Perek Tchelet, regarding Tzitzit, and no shiur lamala, doesn't have any shiur above. You can do as much as you want. It means to say, so he says you can add ben b'minyan, whether it's the number, ben be'orach, or whether the length, right? Or either one you can add, right? So there seems to be an opinion like that, floating around. You can add either way, right? Okay, so he paskins like this opinion we saw in the Gemara. Okay, what's the time? Let's see. Okay, we can do like 2 minutes more. So then he explains, right, that what does it mean that 8, which is going to be right folded, Shem Shishasa, which is 16, more than that you should not do. He holds that you shouldn't do more than that. The read.
No more than double.
Right. Interesting. This is probably brought in a tour, this whole thing. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to read this. It says, regarding what we learned, our life over there in the Gemara, same Gemara. So it says, Tchelet is not miakev. What does that mean? If you don't have Tchelet, you can still make tzitzit, right? No problem. You can put white. Also, if you don't have white, you can put Tchelet, right? Either way, it's good. Right? At least you got something there. Rashi explains, even though the mitzvah is to put 2 Tchelet, and 2 white, this is the proper mitzvah. But one doesn't prevent the other. Right? So therefore, if you made all 4 of them Tchelet, or all 4 of them white like we do, right? Yatsa full obligation. Katvot Tosfot says Tosfot, ve'arosh and also the rosh. L'chora hava mashma the en ze me'akev et ze. So it says mashma that this one doesn't hold back the other one. Hainu she'im hitil shnei chutin. That means that if he put 2 strings, right, mean echad, one type, yatsa, it falls obligation. Kiyad tefillin. In other words, you put 2, not 4. In other words, even if you put 2, then 2 of tchelet or 2 of white, you still did some mitzvah there. You did the white or you did the tchelet. So in other words, it's mashma to him. You don't really need 4. In other words, when it says it's not miakev, it means 2 of this and 2 of this. If you don't have 2 of those, just put 2 of the other one, not 4.
So 2 folded, you got 4.
Right. This according to this opinion, right? That's the way it is. That's what the nosh. Right. Like, in other words, if you have tefillin shel yad, you don't have the rosh, right? You can put the yad. You did some of the mitzvah, right? Part of the mitzvah, right? One mitzvah you did, the other one you didn't do. Et shel rosh, right? The shel rosh and shel yad. Same thing, right? If you have rosh, you don't have yad, put the rosh. You can put something, right? Because one doesn't hold back the other. right? V'nahagu keperush Rashi. So it says minhag is like Rashi. Chen muchach bepek atchelet. That's how it's brought down tchelet. It says in Mem Amud Aleph over there. When it says, right, you put tchelet in your sheet, Yerushalayim eno ela mimatmin. He's a weird person. We talked about that before. So it says a custom like Rashi. What does that mean? If you don't have one or the other, you still should put 4. You know what I mean? That's the minhag. So we don't pass it like the Rosh. That's what he's saying, right? That's what we do, right? Obviously, right? That's how we do it today. Right. It says also you can push out. It says that it could mean that, in other words, if you got 2, you're good, but if you put more, it's also fine. You're not adding to mitzvot. Because it says right 4. The darshinan mine shne chutei lavan or shne chutei lechelet. With darshan, you need 2 lavan and 2 tchelet. Lav lemeut tzefei. It doesn't come to exclude more. Kaate kidash kechan gabe arvei nachal. We find regarding right the aravot of the nachal, the aravot that we do in the gulab. Darshinan arvei shtayim v'nagul lishom arasum arvei. So that's what it is, right? That aravot. The truth is that you're supposed to put 2, but the minhag is to put more. He says today we don't really put more. Maybe some people do that, right? But very few. This way Rashi explains Perek Tchelet. Kabet Talit Shekulat Tchelet. Regarding Talit, which is called Tchelet. The Kamar Allah Kan Betalit Bat Shmona Chutim says regarding that we're talking about Talit which has 8 strings. Rashi explains the Enkan Isur Bal Tosif. There's no prohibition of adding here when you add more. Why is that? Because all these 4, all the 8 strings are in one winding, right? In one group, right? The kashed, so it says, but it's difficult. Elu hen mechanakin, the perk why? Because it says in the Gemara with Sanhedrin on the bed. Kabe zaken mamre regarding the rebellious sage. Mashma de'im hosif bechutim pasul. That it's mashma from there. If you add more strings, it's pasul. So he says, therefore, you can answer like this. If you take it from 4 and make it into 8, that's no problem, right? As we said, 8 is the maximum. It's not pasul. Like we find that Rabbi Yaakov put Arba Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti Ramed Mania. There was one Rabbi used to put 4, one Rabbi used to put 8. So they're both good. Right? Below Plige, there's no machloket there. More abid pachot or more abid ater. So it says they're not really. There's no machloket between them. One is doing the minimum and one is doing the maximum, right? Something like that, whatever, right? Sanhedrin, Ma'ere, the Mosif al Tamania, but Sanhedrin is talking about if you add more than 8, right? That's no good, not kosher, right? So you can't more than 8.
What about the opinion that says you can do less than 4?
Right. So we said we don't pass him like that, right? He already excluded that. But consider him okay. So I guess okay, we'll stop there, and then we can go up this all night with this. But we got things to do, right? Asher is on deck. So yeah, I can't ignore him. Okay, Nisim, Laila Tov, Nisim.
Okay, Rabbi. Thank you very much. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you. Happy holidays. Tomorrow, God willing.
Amen, amen.
Toda. Bye, Rabbi. Thank you. Bye, Isaac.
Bye, Nisim.
Bye. Good night.